whew, schedule is kicking my butt. That'll probably be a theme for a while. Slash forever. Oh man, today it was rough though. I've been having those issues with the IQ tests, and I tried a weird supplement experiment today to try to adjust for to see how the results would be, and I kind of messed it up a little bit anyways. Couldn't control the time the way I wanted to, but I took 2 IQ tests early today, and I did a little bit of my exercises. I do a thing with hammers where I rotate side to side, and then I do a bent press where you kind of lean away from the weight, so the weight goes up with one arm. It's the strongest one-arm lift of all time, but it really helps with my spine. And then I do a kettlebell thing side to side as well, and those all seem to help with my spine fairly well. But now this crazy schedule I'm in a catabolic state. I can tell, which isn't necessarily bad. I'm way overweight, but it's, I don't know, I'm grinding. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm working out too much, but I can't not work out because I lose my strength fast. But if I work out and I'm not recovering fully, then I lose my strength even faster. So, yeah, and since I've had all the trouble with hormones, I don't recover as fast. And writing, obviously, when your mind's not as clear, you don't write as well. I'm working on some interesting stuff in writing, though. So I started today working on an article I did not get done. But I'm rewriting. I think I have it titled right now, Jeff Rewrites the City of Peace. So the 2 short fiction pieces that I've written, the 2 short stories that I like, are The City of Peace and The Birth of Hannah. And the City of Peace was 6 months ago, which is kind of insane to think about. So I have not accomplished too much in the last 6 months. But I'm rewriting it, and then I'm going to try to get it published and see, just kind of for my own clarification on whether I can write publishable material. And yeah, I would like to do that. My Advanced Communicator Gold seminar on meetings, why some meetings work and some don't, is coming up. It's less than a week away now, and I'm developing the content for that. Well, I've developed quite a bit of content. I have an interesting list of all the different stuff that I would like to cover. I think it's a little bit on the next page. I think it's too much actually for a 1-hour seminar. So I'm going to facilitate it basically as kind of a dialogue, and I'm going to have a logical structure to it and lead it through, but we might skim over things if it's appropriate for the group, depending on who shows up, that type of thing. But it should be interesting. There's so much interesting stuff here. I'm going to go over like psychology traits and psychological traits and how they relate to different people in different meetings, in the context of meetings, the constructivism, the emergent nature of rules, the 3 different types of memory, almost 3 different levels of memory, and moral progression, how all those relate and come from Jean Piaget, who's a psychologist. Super good stuff. Compliance agreement matrix, which I invented. I made up. I don't know if anyone else has ever invented it. It seems kind of an obvious thing to invent, but I call it the compliance agreement matrix, and I think it'll be a useful framework for some people. Pyramid of abstraction and concretion, which would be really useful, can be useful for communication. Semantic triangle, which is all about how we communicate. And because you make up a symbol, right, a word that is not the thing, and the symbol then goes to the other person and they think of a thing, but it may not be the same thing that you were thinking of when you made the symbol, when they're essentially decoding the symbol. And to a certain extent, it can't be exact. It's a very interesting framework to work around in communication, because miscommunication over they have technical terms for all this, reference, but different things, even though like you're saying the same word and you mean 2 completely different things. That's so common in miscommunication, and it seems like almost no one knows about the semantic triangle, but so common. And then Aristotle's rhetorical triangle, which is very useful, and responsibility hierarchies as opposed to dominance hierarchies. Very interesting thing. then I have all these spectrums that meetings can occur on, from monologues to dialogues, from democracy to autocracy, from official to unofficial, chaos to order, repeated singular, public private, emotional rational, briefing debriefing, leader follower. Right? Oh, and it can be many people or few people. So there's a lot of different spectrums that meetings can exist on those, and I'll probably lay that down pretty early first. And then there's some great stories I can take from stuff. And then, of course, different roles and the purpose of meetings, of the meeting, because context is everything, right? Some people say content is king, and then I heard that if content's king, then context is God. And there's a lot of truth to that little saying. I don't know where it comes from, but there's a lot of truth to it. And I've got stories about, actually, I got to include another one on here, for everything from the billionaire Ray Dalio and how he runs odd meetings, and how the Navy SEALs do briefings and debriefings, which is very interesting and informative. So a lot of stuff, and the different laments from Jim Lundy, great stuff. I think I mentioned that last time. We, the uninformed, working for the inaccessible, are doing the impossible for the ungrateful. He also has several other ones, great questions on leading organizations. The supervisor's lament, which is supervisors are often blamed but rarely trained, something like that. And the mushroom farm lament, which I don't have memorized, but is even more hilarious than all the other things. So that will be interesting. It'll kind of be an interesting exploration over that hour. See how that goes. On a, let's see, a less positive note, I wrote down some stuff because that way I don't have to try to remember it and all the other stuff I'm trying to remember. Like, because I just went through, I think, 8 students or something like that in the last few hours, and then I essentially remember what happened in every one of them, because I only get 2 minutes between sessions, and it takes about 30 seconds to get out of a session, and you want to get to a session a minute early because you get like some sort of check mark or something next to your name. Technically you get points, but no one knows what the points are for, but I'm guessing it's going to be a rating scale on who gets raises, stuff like that. So you want to get to the meeting a minute early, but you only have 2 minutes in between, right? And you're probably going like 30 seconds over with the one kid, because he can't end early. You can't end even a second early. So a lot of times it's easy to run 30 seconds over. So you basically go right into the next class. You have 0 time to write any of your stuff, any of your reviews, any of your notes, and you have to write stuff for every student. So then you just have to remember them all. Essentially, you can review it a little bit, but you have to remember them all and then write down what happened in every class, at least to some extent. But I almost fell over like a couple of times teaching these classes tonight. Like, I'm just so exhausted. And I think that has a lot to do with taking the 2 IQ tests this morning and exercising. And I found that even when I take 1 IQ test and I exercise in the morning, and then I work 3 or 4 hours in the morning, 3 or 4 hours at night, try to get some writing in. Like, I didn't even get reading in today. Maybe I'll read a chapter before I go to bed, and maybe not. I've been putting writing above that in priority. And man, I've made a lot of mistakes in life, but I'm not very good at ranging priorities apparently. And I'm still not. I know it's important, but can't seem to figure that out. And anyways, I just feel really bad, essentially, right? I always have pain, but if there was like no pain and then pain, I mean, essentially, I think to a large extent you have to be in pain to be conscious. Like, pain is the foundation of consciousness. Benjamin Franklin expresses a very similar idea in this book right here. Love this book. This is awesome. A dissertation on liberty and necessity, pleasure and pain. Like, one of the greatest things Benjamin Franklin ever wrote. And he wrote a lot of interesting stuff. He's an interesting guy. The deeper you dig into him, the more you learn about him, the crazier and more brilliant he is. But luckily, I'm at a standing desk because sitting doesn't work for my spine at all. And I was able to hold on to the desk, but yeah, I almost fell over like twice. It kind of like swooning. The one time was while I was discussing Cinderella with a girl that likes those types of stories. So super ironic, right? A lot of irony there. And then let's see. Oh, and at the same time, I got ringing in my ears, right, which is called tinnitus. You get like a, it's kind of like a static or like a deadline sound in your ears, and I usually get it in like one ear, and I get it a lot. I've gotten it as long as I've had migraines, so basically as long as I can remember, and it, it's just I can't imitate the sound at all. I'm not even good at imitating sounds, but it's kind of like just in your ear constantly, super annoying. But it usually only lasts for like 5 to 15 minutes for me, and but I probably get it almost every day. It's really weird, and it happened at the same time, so it's interesting, like what's correlated and what's not correlated. But then I just fake being okay. I've learned that's like the skill in life is the fake being okay. I'm doing it now actually, and then I do it during teaching, obviously. And I think I had 8 students over the last couple hours, and I got 5 hearts from all of them except for one. It was a very boring kid, and I tried to engage him. I let him draw a lot, and he's just some kids. I think their parents are basically forcing them to be there, and it's so hard to get those kids engaged. Sometimes I actually do pretty well at it, but really, probably the most important thing that I need to think about is an elimination diet. Now, I've been thinking about this anyways, but a friend of mine sent me a video link to Jordan Peterson. Love Jordan Peterson. And his depression runs in his family and autoimmune diseases and stuff like this. And his daughter went on a super strict elimination diet where you eliminate everything in your diet except for a few things, and then you just stay that way. And her depression and a lot of autoimmune stuff cleared up for her after about a month. And then you add in like one thing at a time and see what causes any kind of reaction. Basic idea is that you're having some sort of inflammatory allergic reaction. And ever since I've gotten back from Africa, I've kind of ignored this or been slow to pick it up, whatever it may be, or kind of willful blindness maybe. I react horrible to dairy. Like I should be eating zero dairy. Like it's just like it that kills me, which I didn't have trouble with like before I got sick, but I got sick with whatever. They don't even know what I got sick with because they didn't run the right tests or anything. And then I went through several treatments to basically kill all the living stuff in my system. And there are more bacteria in your body than cells. You have more bacteria in your body than cells. So I went through 2 normal antibiotic treatments, and then I went through a 3rd holistic antibiotic treatment, which is the one that helped the most, actually. And obviously, my internal environment changed significantly at that time. And now, like, I sneeze a lot in the mornings, and I think I might be, like, partially allergic to Jack the cat. And we've brought plants in the house, and I had, like, a fairly severe allergic reaction to them, which I never had before, and tons of stuff irritates me now like that, like kind of obvious allergic reactions, and I've kind of been ignoring it because I haven't used, in history I haven't really had a problem with that. I had mosquito issues when I was young. Mosquitoes would bite me and they'd swell up a lot, but otherwise I haven't had too bad of issues with any allergies of most sorts throughout my entire life. And I always on the forums always mark down allergies. No. And I'm reacting really bad to all this stuff and strongly, and it's like just getting stronger. So there's something there, and I think it's obviously because of the change in the environment, probably having a lot to do with all the bacteria and whatever I had in Africa that I had to kill, and all those killing treatments, those antibiotic treatments change your system a lot too. So there's something there, and it's like even this, which I don't drink this type of stuff very much. I drink mostly just water, filtered water. But like this was super convenient while I was teaching. Like I grabbed a bottle and drank it, and it has some preservatives and stuff in there which aren't good for you, obviously, but usually you won't feel the effects in low amounts. But I think it might be that my system is just super sensitive now, because in general I'm very non-resilient. Right? There's the guy that's Taleb, I think his name is. I have some of his books. That's really famous for the concept of anti-fragile now. And I'm the opposite. I'm kind of fragile. Right? I'm not frail like, I'm not frail, but I'm just fragile. Like my health is finicky. It's always kind of on the edge of going downhill. It never seems to be on the edge of going uphill very much. Long, hard slog uphill and easy to slip back down, I guess. But I think that's what I need to do. So I'm going to figure out when I want to implement that. I've got this IQ test coming up March 23rd, and going on intense diets, which I think basically go on an elimination diet, so you eliminate almost everything. So you got these few things that you basically know. You have to take a little bit of a guess, right? But you got these few things, like a couple of just plain meats and some vegetables that you know you aren't having a reaction to, highly probably. And then you basically have to do that for a month to 3 weeks to a month to see what changes, which should be a fairly dramatic change. And then you can slowly add stuff back in one at a time. And if you have any bad effects from anything, then you take it back out, obviously, and you try other stuff. And you have to rebuild your diet and see what you can eat. And it's probably something I should have done a long time ago with all these health issues, because, you know, it's kind of duh, I should have done it a long time ago, but I didn't, and still don't really want to. And the failure rate is like 95%, but it's just so important. My health is crap, and I'm performing poorly on everything, and you know, it's just, it's like so frustrating. I used to be able to work really hard physically, and I used to be able to work really hard mentally for long hours. I used to be able to work hard physically and mentally for long hours in the same day. And now it's like I can barely work hard physically. I basically can't work hard physically. And working hard mentally I can do for like a little while, not that long. And it's, oh man, so frustrating. So frustrating. It's not as frustrating as when I was having major memory issues. That is way worse. But this is super horrible still. That was just so horrible that you would need to write a horribly tragic story to describe that feeling. This you can just say is horrible. And super, super frustrating and annoying. So, you know, problem-solving abilities have to kick in here. And I'm not sure exactly what to do. It's weird. I mean, it's the same issue everyone's caught in, right? Like, if you could do more stuff, if you had more energy, basically, then you could use more of your time to do more productive stuff. But if you do it too much, then you burn out. So it's the same. It's like a same type of burnout, reserve capacity, diminishing health versus increased productivity. Same issues everyone has. Mine is now just more constricted than you would consider probably normal. And so it's more severely more constricted than I used to be. So it's weird, but I have to get more efficient, essentially, and it's difficult. And so I have to work on it. But I'm going to decide at some point when I'm going to do that elimination diet. I have to do it. The issue on diets like that, a lot of times your body will have a strong reaction of various sorts. And, you know, I've done all sorts of diets before, and I've done tons of fasting, and I've done a fruitarian diet for 2 months where you just eat fruits and nuts when I was doing fairly long distance running. Not super long distance running, but I was doing 35, 40 miles a week, about 5 to 8 miles a day, somewhere in there. And it was great after the first week when I detoxed, and the first week of the fruitarian diet was super horrible. So you want to be careful, or I want to be careful, to not make it so that I'm doing something weird on March 23rd and mess up the whole IQ thing. It's like it's a 2-hour drive, it's an $80 fee, 2-hour drive back. You know, you got to take a day off work to do it. It's a logistical nightmare, and I really don't want to have to do that all again. So I don't want to mess that day up. But I've got quite a while before then. So we'll see how it goes. But at some point I have to implement that, and I'm wondering if I start like on March 1st, March 23rd, is 3 weeks into it, and that might end up working out decently well, or I might still be in a bad state. It's super hard to say, so I might want to start it earlier, like in February. Not sure. I have to work it out. Anyways, I have to go to bed. I am super exhausted. So, till next time, peace.